Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Estella Vin Ladris. I am Kai, I use he, they, and she pronouns, and you're back for another episode of Seems Right, my show about costuming and storytelling. Before we get into it though, let's talk about this world that we're in. Oof. In times of crisis, we must stand unified. Through community organizing, being a listening ear, spreading joy, and talking openly about our shared values, we can build a strong community so that when crisis comes, we can act. We are faced with multiple crises at the moment, from impending medical debt to a government completely out of control to global crises of oppression, war, famine, disease, and so many other problems. The climate catastrophe around us has caused very recent harm, and you can always use !Melissa in my chat to find places to donate to help people in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean who are still suffering from the effects of that enormous hurricane. And there's also so many more things, and it's a lot. Take time to learn about the world and what is going on right next to you. Use your voice when you are able to call for change. Vote, donate, volunteer, and care for each other. The only way through this is together. In caring for those right beside us, we must not forget the wider world that we live in. We should fight for the freedom of those oppressed around the world, especially those facing genocide and violent oppression. I stand with the people in Sudan, the DRC, and Palestine, and all oppressed peoples of the world in their struggle for liberation. If you can today, there are actions available in my chat here live on Twitch if you use !Gaza to find places to send aid and to keep pressure on political leaders for the future of Palestine and the Palestinian people. Taking action as a community can make a real difference. I am forever grateful to be a part of such an amazing community of people who actually care about this world that we live in. Thank you for being here with me, either live on Twitch or later watching this video on Twitch or YouTube. Telling stories and talking about meaningful storytelling like we're going to do today. And having fun is what drives me, and sharing it with you all is such a joy. So if you're enjoying my streams, please consider following, and if you're able to, subscribing so that I can keep doing this wild thing. I am an independent content creator, and all of your support helps me continue to tell stories and talk to you about what you can do to make your stories more rich and personal, and how you can care for yourself while you do it, which is what we're going to talk about today. All of my streams are available about a week after they air here live on Twitch, over on YouTube. And they are also available on Twitch immediately after for the week following. And then they're available until they fall off of Twitch. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, Lemia. Got a 3-stream streak. Hell yeah. And yeah, if you're watching either here live on Twitch or later on Twitch, you know, those you can always follow for free. I'm so grateful that you're here hanging out with us in chat, our lurkers, everybody here on Twitch. I'm so grateful that you're here hanging out live. But also, if you're watching in the future over on YouTube, you can always hit that like and subscribe button and leave a little comment. That's always very helpful. Yeah. So with all of that, we're going to talk about not necessarily heavy subjects as the plot of what we're doing, but they're going to be atmospheric. So I want to make sure that we specifically talk about the content warnings for today. The additional content warnings outside of my usual channel's content warnings for today include mentions of heavy subjects including grief, death, medical emergencies, loss of loved ones, violence, and more. Other content warnings may include emotional dysregulation, disreality, gaslighting, emotional manipulation and abuse, nightmares, and mental health struggles. Please consume this content with care, and all content that contains these things with conscious awareness of yourself and your well-being. With that said, let's jump on into it. So, what we're going to talk about today, if you've been following my work as a TTRPG performer, you know I love delving into meaty and often pretty dark subject matter. And I have some pretty hard and fast rules about how I engage with it, and some of them are things that I've brought from theater, some of them are things that I've brought from other people that I've worked with here in the space. And so today I want to talk about best practices for pursuing hard subjects. And this could be everything from like one of the main themes of the Chaos Protocol is grief. So grief is a pretty common one that I enjoy telling stories about because I find it very cathartic and liberating to talk about something that as a society we kind of hide a little. But also this can be things like violence, death. I mean, we all play tabletop games, or at least a lot of the people watching I'm sure do, and like characters die in TTRPGs. And we also talk about stories of death and what it means. And so I kind of want to get into how to safely go about telling stories like this, because it's all well and good to sit around and play a funny haha game where the stakes are light, or if a character dies, you're not emotionally invested in the depth of the story they're telling. Oh, hi Turtle Kier. Thanks so much for hanging out while you're in transit. A lot of people are moving around this week, so I'm grateful that you all are here. Yeah, so I want to start from the top, which is one of the best things that you can do to ensure that you are telling a safe and fun story for the people that you are telling a story with. This is irregardless of if it's a actual play stream or just a game you're playing at home. All of these should be applicable in any setting. If you listen to The Home We Remember, or Laurie's House, playing The Home We Remember, there we go. If you've listened to Laurie's House, you know that there's a lot of heavy subjects in there as well, and it's very consistent across a lot of my work because it's something that draws me to storytelling. But I find that a lot of major media, the like kill a character for shock value and then not really resonate in the grief of that loss is something that I really hate. It feels very marginalizing in a lot of ways because how dare you care about a character. There's been so many violent shows in my lifetime that I'm like, that wasn't necessary. That character's death means nothing, and the characters around don't grieve in a way that is fruitful storytelling. So I have big opinions about it, but it's something that I really am like captured by in storytelling. So I'm going to avoid talking too much about specific spoilers for specifically the Chaos Protocol. I have some other projects and things that I might reference that I'll, again, preface. You don't have to have watched the entire back catalog of my work to understand what I'm talking about, or even the Chaos Protocol. But it is in reference to a lot of the work that I do on those, because I think that I work with some amazing people, and I've done a lot of work on my own to facilitate safely telling hard stories. So from the top, at your table, whatever that table may look like, even if it is just a bunch of friends sitting in a Discord call, all the way up to a highly produced actual play. The first thing that you need to do if you want to tell a serious story about a difficult topic, whether that is, grief, a story of addiction, a story of violence, even if it's in your backstory, even if it's something that you're not certain will come up, the best thing you can do at any table for literally anything is start with table safety. The table safety isn't just about telling difficult topics, but it is the thing that allows people to safely engage in telling difficult stories. So at any table, if you are interested in telling a difficult story, and I don't care if you're a player, the GM, I don't care what the context is, them lines and veils, you need them. You need those lines and veils. Lines and veils allow you to have at least the beginnings of a conversation about what kind of story as a group of people you can safely tell. As a GM, one of my favorite things to do, especially knowing if it's going to be a darker story or covering a subject that people might find upsetting, is to specifically call out, hey, this game, this story that we're talking about is going to include haunting. It's going to include natural disasters. It's going to include gun violence, all of these things, putting it up front and saying, like, if you're participating in this story, this is the thing I'm interested in talking about, and highlighting it for me as the GM, saying, like, if we're going to play in this game, the game that I have planned to run includes this as a core element. If it is a deal breaker for someone at the table, I'm usually open to a conversation, unless it's like a cast show that I'm working on specific parameters with. I'm usually pretty happy to be like, yeah, we can work around that, but like, don't sit down to play 10 Candles and say I don't want characters to die. It's like a core conceit of the game of 10 Candles is that all the characters die. And so, like, it's one thing to adjust to fit table safety. It's another thing for someone to just not be a good fit for that particular story. And so Lines and Veils to me is a starting point. Is a let's talk primer wise, like table setting. These are the things we don't talk about. Like pretty much every table I play at, like transphobia is off the table because that's not a fun storytelling thing. That's just bigotry. Most bigotries, most isms are off the table when I'm playing. And then there's more sensitive subject matter that unless the game is about that, I tend to, especially as the GM, say this is just not on the table. Like it's one thing for a game played by people of color to specifically say, hey, I'm going to explore racism. But unless it is the part of the game that everyone buys into, just don't play with racism. That's fine. That's easy. Because you create the world that you live in, so you can just say, that's not a part of this fiction. We don't have racism or sexism or whatever in this world. And so Lines and Veils allow you to establish that conversation. And then I see people in chat already talking about the next thing, which is, especially if you are going to be a game about heavy subject matter, you then need to have a conversation beyond just Lines and Veils. So I did a one-shot called the Benevolent Association of Portsmouth Square. It was a charity one-shot for AAPI Heritage Month over on Stella Luna's channel last year? Maybe the year before. I don't remember. I think it was last year. But the framing of that story was the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco. And earthquakes are very scary for most people. I live in California. I've been nerfed in my fear of them, but it's a reasonable thing to be afraid of, right? And natural disasters in general, terrifying. A very reasonable thing for people to not want to engage in. But not only was it in my Lines and Veils saying like, hey, there's going to be an earthquake in this story, because that's the thing I'm framing it around. And having that conversation then with my table after of like, hey, so here's specifically why I'm doing the 1906 earthquake. For those of you who didn't know, it like completely changed how we talk about earthquakes the world over in architecture and city planning, etc. It's a very fascinating event to study in retrospect. It was terrifying when it actually happened. It burned half the city of San Francisco. And so like, I would understand someone being like, this actually is too scary or too uncomfortable for me to engage in a way that is fun and fruitful. And that's fine. Especially if this were an offline game, I'd just be like, well, let's play something else then. Or let's do a different version of this. Let's find a different natural disaster. And the pursuing a difficult subject like an earthquake, like a major earthquake, is a conversation that isn't just in the Lines and Veils. It is, hey, here's the plan. And in the case of things like the Chaos Protocol, grief being one of the main themes, we had to talk about a lot of different subjects that can create grief. Indie Wanderer talking about, yes, you should contact your GM about safety tools. You should use them. And if you are ever looking for good safety tools, there's a bunch of really good safety tool resources out there. Off the top of my head, there's the safety tools toolkit available. I love my buddy Kimmy from Golden Lasso Games has a really good safety tools section on her website. I love safety tools. It really allows me to be my whole freaky self. And so those conversations about like from the top down, like right when the campaign's going to start, right when the game is going to start, right before your one shot, being like, this is the thing that I know is going to come out of this game. And as we all know, because it's an improv-based form of storytelling, things can get darker and veer differently, which is why safety tools are a malleable thing that you work with. They are not a one and done. And so if you know, especially your characters, if you're a player, hello, C. Thomas. Cody, you can send it to me and I'll post it. That would be awesome because I don't have the link on hand. It will not show it in chat if you send it yourself. So as a player, when you're creating your character's backstory, having the lines and veils in mind, obviously work within those, but if you find that there's something, other subject matter that is sensitive, whether that is, something like exploring grief, exploring death of loved ones, etc., have that conversation. Or if it's something that like maybe isn't a traumatic kind of heavy subject, but maybe it's just a more sensitive topic that you want to make sure people are aware of, like exploring mental health. Like everyone has some level of mental health going on in their lives. I just don't think that people can exist without having to have those kinds of check-ins. But there's the safety toolkit. Thank you, Cody. But if you are specifically looking to explore some aspect of mental health for yourself within your TTRPG playing, that's a conversation to have with your table so that they're aware of what you're doing. So if you are exploring a character who's working through, say, an anxiety disorder, or maybe you're purposefully exploring your relationship with autism or something like that at the table, that's when you go to your table and say, hey, just so you know, my character is autistic. And then they have the invitation to then taking that information and act accordingly instead of making assumptions. Or saying like, my character, I'm interested in playing a character who has an anxiety disorder. I'm trying to explore this thing for myself, because I don't advise you playing, especially like people who are struggling with any kind of mental health that isn't related to what you're actively doing. I just don't recommend it because it can get very tropey and not great in TTRPGs, just as a side. But it's not to say that you can't bring that to the table and play with it. That'd be like telling someone who is disabled that they can't play disability at the table. That's wild. And you should always embrace being open about these subjects. Being open about, hey, I'm interested in playing a character who has had abuse in their past, has had these things. And talking to your table openly so that they know what you are bringing so that they can engage with it accordingly, or say, hey, this particular subject makes me really uncomfortable, and you can have a bigger conversation at the table about how to tell that story, or where the safety is with telling the story you're interested in telling. And sometimes that is just veiling it. Sometimes it is the like broader strokes of like, hey, this is the shape of what I'm okay with. Like I have a pretty consistent veil for specifically mental health crises happening in a fiction that cause people to act very erratically. And it is from experiences that I'm like, this is just not something that's fun for me to engage in. I just not to say that you can't do something rash, but I prefer that you like veil that behavior, veil deep and personal descriptions of experiencing anxiety, that kind of stuff. It can be unfun for people. So, and if you don't realize you're doing it, that's a conversation. So, Blusterbean asks, what if you don't realize you're doing it? Unconscious things happen. That's fine. This is why, again, table safety is an ongoing thing. And if you have someone you're playing with, that is doing something that's making you uncomfortable or you're uncertain, the best thing you can do is say, hey, can we have just like a check-in about this? one of my like standing policies as a GM is I have an open door, and you can either tell everybody, you can just tell me, and I can find ways to broach it with the group. But the best thing you can do is always like be aware of yourself, know that consent is revocable in, you know, storytelling, and say like, yeah, you might have done that last session, but it made me really uncomfortable. Can we not do that again? And have care and kindness for each other as well as for yourself when it comes to the fact that you're a person who grows and changes and makes new decisions every day. So all of that is the table setting for how to tell stories about difficult subjects. And it includes having awareness, having the desire to like tell open stories with each other means you have to have those adult conversations. And if you're not able to have them, maybe that's not the right table for an in-depth exploration of something like that. And maybe just consider playing with people who have better handle on their safety in general if you can't have an open conversation with the people you're playing with. Blister Bean, I can't tell you how many people I have had this exact experience with. So like, listen, neurodivergent sneaks up on everybody. And that's fine. And it's about then like with the knowledge of it, being able to say like, hey, table mates, hey, fellow storytellers, please don't treat this as a joke. In summary, like, please be kind about this because it's something that I was not aware of that is clearly in my character. My character is oops neurospicy because I'm neurospicy. That's fine. And the same is true for all sorts of things. Gender exploration in your characters. I know people who have gone through transitioning and their characters transitioned. I know people who have done all kinds of stuff just to like evolve with their understanding of themselves, of the story they're telling, etc., etc. So just have that conversation when you know. Oh, yes, Erica, you're so right. Erica in chat is talking about how safety can also come from communicating about the rules and mechanics themselves. They're going to be playing Vampire, and they will likely frenzy a lot. And they had a conversation about how, because frenzy can be very, the GM can kind of take over that character. And in general, one of the main things, if there's any potential for that in mechanics especially, that is an open conversation that I would have with every table. And as a GM, I'm always like, I'm not going to take over your character. I'm going to ask you a bunch of horrible questions and give you things to react to. That's me and my playstyle. It's actually one of the things I dislike about VTM and as a whole is that they tell you, like, your character will lose agency. You as a player will lose agency in this story. And I don't like that personally. For me, I understand some people are down with that. That's not my vibe. If you ever see my characters seemingly lose agency within the story, know that I probably said, this is the way I would like them to lose agency, and here's why. Because I am there as a participant in the story, and to take away my character's agency is to take away my agency within the story. Whereas if I say, like, my character does this because they are compelled to do so, I have the agency to say, like, yeah, and they do it. Or here's how they resist it. Here's how X, Y, and Z, because we're still also having fun and all telling stories together. So that open communication of losing agency for a player character is also about losing agency for a player. Yes, thank you, Blister Bean. Their storyteller for their VTM live stream says, we want to traumatize our characters, never our players. That is correct. So the bigger conversation about mechanics in general, outside of player agency, which I can go on forever about, obviously, is like, oh, again, I'm going to go back to 10 Candles as an example. If you struggle with talking about death, and especially talking about, like, inevitability of death, 10 Candles is probably not the game for you. 10 Candles is a game meant to be played in one sitting, that by the time the tea candle lights are all out, all of the characters die. it is not a game about succeeding to survive. It is a game about hope in a place of hopelessness. And so if that is not something that you feel like you can safely engage with, don't play 10 Candles. Or find a group of people who are interested in questioning that part of the mechanics as an exploration of the game. But just signing up cold for a 10 Candles game, you're going to play a game in which characters die. And if that's not right for you, then it's not fun for anybody. So mechanics are a very core part of all of these conversations. Using mechanics to talk about safety tools. Oh, I love this. So yes, have those open conversations around your table. Now, the thing I kind of want to hone in on, though, today is also talking about then what to do when you know that something is coming, whether it is a planned thing that, you have a session coming up like next week or whatever, and you're like, okay, so we're going to face off against my character's backstory, big NPC, or this element of my character's story is going to come in and probably kick all of our asses. If there is a sensitive subject within that, so I am going to lightly spoil the Chaos Protocol, that if you haven't watched all of Arc 1 of the Chaos Protocol is a spoiler. So I'm going to put my hand up. When I take my hand down, that I will be done talking about that spoiler. But here's the spoiler, which is that I came into the Chaos Protocol knowing that Xionin had a daughter who had died. And now I'm going to put my hand down. Okay, spoiler done. And that particular sensitive subject was one that I came to the table with. I came and talked to everybody about. It was something that I thought long and hard about, not because it was a shock value thing, but because it's a story that I very much so believe in and have had some, adjacent personal experiences to, that I was like, this is a story that I'm very compelled to tell, but only if everyone is cool with that. And so when it was going to come up, then it was the conversation of, hey, this is probably going to come up soon. How we feeling? How we feeling? Because these are the things that make it so that telling that story, everyone is bought in. So then not only is the table not surprised when it happens, because you've had the conversation before the game started, and then you've had a conversation, hey, my character's dad that they hate is coming into the story, or my character, their ex that's really messy is going to come into the story. And not like fun messy, but like yelling, screaming, for some people like safety concerning, unfun, kind of ex. Like, that's when you say, hey, so this is probably going to happen soon. Are we still cool with that? And then not only does the table have the safety warning, you have assurances and buy-in that your table mates are still okay with it, so that when it comes to doing something hard, something scary, you have talked about this, like, recently. And this isn't to say that, again, consent is always revocable, but if you take it as consent and removing consent for a subject being involved in the story is not a judgment on you. It is, hey, I thought I was going to be cool with this, and then it turns out this was really upsetting to me. That's a conversation that you should have, and has happened in games that I have been in, at tables that I have played at, but it is not judgment of you. You did everything you could, the table did everything they could to be ready, and in the moment things changed, and that's fine. But for the most part, I find it very enabling to say, oh yes, I'm going to be a part of a very, very hard subject, whether that is like a planned character death. I know so many people that, like, when they move away from their home game, they're like, listen, I want to go out in a blaze of glory in this game. That is the story I want to tell. You get the buy-in from everybody, and then they know, so that when the moment comes, they can, like, uplift that moment of the story and say, like, I'm not going to interrupt your death monologue or whatever. You can just say, like, yeah, full send. Here you go. So then everyone gets to be together in that moment. Cody has a question. Do you have any advice for people who have players or GMs who love secrets and big reveals and may be hesitant to reveal things ahead of time, warning about potentially sensitive topics? So as a lover of secrets and as a person who has done this well and done this poorly, my advice is, if it is a commonly understood to be sensitive subject, my advice is to check in, because secrets are really fun, but if the surprise is so upsetting to the player that it makes them no longer trust the safety of the table, it's not worth it. No, not the buzzing. Hold on. I trust you, see. Hello. I have to figure out why it keeps doing that. Hopefully that's better. So yes, the thing about table secrets is I think that if you feel like you want to have a table with secrets, which by the way, you should also check in about with your players in advance. You should say, hey, this is a table where secrets are allowed, or hey, this is a table where secrets are not allowed. The big thing at the heart of it should always be the fun of the secret, not the power, because secrets within fiction have power, right? Because it is going to be a moment TM, a reveal TM, when that secret is uncovered. Thank you, Producer C, and thank you, Cody. So investigate the fun of the secret is kind of my first thing, especially as the GM. Like GMs are part of the reason to play, to be a GM, to play as a GM is to be able to be the secret keeper. Right? So I think that a lot of this comes from the fact that I've GM'd a lot of games with a lot of secrets. But the core of it is like, hey, if the secret is a dead close person, if the secret is, you know, like a traumatic, upsetting, or maybe even bigoted event, I would do a pretty intense check-in and be like, hey, this might not come up for a while, but are we okay with talking about, you know, like the death of children, the death of loved ones, the death of a parent, the death of a partner? Is that something that everyone's okay with? Like, don't worry about it right now. But like in the future, it might come up. And then again, just like I was saying earlier, check in again if the reveal is coming. Because then you're not telling the full secret. Like, if you have a character who has like a dead spouse, for example, and like you want to reveal that, you can just at the top of the game be like, hey, so in my character's backstory, there is some loss of loved ones that's pretty intense. Are we cool with that? And if people want to ask further questions, I usually then I'm like, I'm happy to clarify if you need more information, but if that's all the information you need, I'd like to keep it mostly a secret. And so then you can allow people to engage at their comfort level with either it being a secret or with safety as needed, because you never know, you know, what people have experienced or what makes them uncomfortable. And it allows them to be like, hey, the overarching 1,000-mile view safety thing that you've talked about, I have a thing under that umbrella. You know, like, is it specific? If you say like death of loved ones is the like overarching umbrella, and then someone's like, hey, I just want to check in, is it specifically like death of a partner, or you know, kind of negotiate between the two of you, like what the level of information is that is required for someone's comfort. Yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff being said in chat. Oh my gosh. Yes. One of the big things, I'm in a similar boat with you, Erica, about metagame and secrets. Like, I will always love having secrets at my table. But it is one of those, like, if it's fun for everybody things. If it's not fun for everybody, then we do something else. I find other ways to be surprising and strange. Because the point is, yes, you are telling a story together. And Turtle Cure, you're talking about a player that really does struggle with not having all that information. And I've also played with those people. And it's one of those, like, let me invite you in to know the important things. And often if it's a player that struggles with there being secrets at all, so much of it for me is always like, hey, what part of it do you need to know to be happy and be able to enjoy the story? Because like as a GM, my job very often is like, hey, I have an encounter plan that the point is that it's a surprise attack. But then I can say, like, here's a list of possible creatures that we might encounter in this, if it's someone who has specifically, like, concerns around creatures and that kind of stuff. So it's one of those, like, invitation to make specific, to meet people where they're at, basically. I love the consent to kill NPCs, especially specific ones. Like, there are ones that should have plot armor. I've played it, especially long form games where it's like, hey, are we cool if all of the NPCs are on the table, or are there some that we need to not harm? And, like, especially if they're backstory specific ones for PCs, letting them have, like, pretty strong say in, like, I need this character to survive, actually. That's like most games that I play in, especially streamed ones, is like, animals have plot armor. They just do, because it's not fun to kill someone's domesticated pet. Let's see here. Oh my gosh, so many wonderful things being said. Yes, the personal backstory reveal thing is kind of one of those, like, it's a craft thing, but some of it is also just like building a backstory that no matter how deep you go, there will always be something that you know about your character that the other players don't, and letting them drive that way, instead of letting the idea of you, the player, having a secret going, my character is motivated by something that may never be fully apparent, because people are like that. Yes, oh my god. C is saying right at the heart of one of my favorite things is when everyone does know, because as a player, I tend to be like, yeah, I have a secret, and sometimes I tell and sometimes I don't. It depends on the kind of story that I'm in, but I love it when the secret comes and everyone either knows what the secret already is, or knows enough of it to be like, please let me yes and you. It's the best part. Yes, all of this is fantastic. So yes, this is like pre-session, in the moment, or even in the moment. You can be like, hey, above table, let me just check in with everybody about this particular thing, because sometimes you're also playing a character that you don't have a 12-page backstory written for, and then you might be playing a little by ear, and then find something that you're like, this feels like a fruitful direction to take the character, and always interrogate it for yourself and be like, hey, why do I want to add this really heavy subject to this? Is this the right table? But then if you decide, yeah, we ride, then you go like, hey, is it cool if this thing, before you say it and speak it into the fiction, or know that retcons do exist and you should do them if you're uncomfortable. So that's a way to, like, I know a lot of people struggle with, like, interrupting the fiction of a TTRPG, but I really think that it's something that is worth remembering, that is a tool that you have, especially for safety, or for clarity. Like, genuinely, I think some of my favorite stuff is, like, messaging people on the side that I can do as an actual play performer, or that I play remotely a lot, where I can be like, hello, yes, do you mean this thing? Or, hey, this thing is coming up, can I involve you in it? So that you are looping other people in your intentions. Because that's so much of this is, like, it's about intention, I think, first and foremost, is that, like, hey, my intention is to do a crime, do a bad thing, do a sad thing, so then you can loop other people in so that they know, yes, in the world of our story, I'm committing a crime, but I'm not here for you to chastise me. I'm telling you I'm doing it so that you can react accordingly instead of being surprised. So, yes. God, I love a retcon, truly. So, you've done your pre-game, pre-campaign safety check-in. You've done your, hey, this thing is coming, and I definitely like know it's coming, so let me just check in again. You've done your like all of that stuff, but what about you, the performer, the player, the GM, the whoever you are in this setting? How do you then get to that point of telling that story? So you know that you have your table at your back, which is one of the most important parts, but also then finding the story and doing the work for telling it in a way that you are happy with. That's the other thing I kind of really want to look at closely today. And so much of that is about doing what I talked about, 2 weeks ago? Character work for your character and interrogating the who, what, where, when, why of what the moment is. What story do you want to tell? And this is where you can get into things like being upfront with your wishes with your GM. Like, hey, I know we're going to be encountering this important thing for my character, or whatever. My wish is to have a moment with this. My wish is to be involved, even if my character runs away. Like, be plain, because then you have, by investigating why your character, what story you want to tell with your character about this backstory moment, about this heavy subject, about this whatever. Because it doesn't have to be backstory. Like, I've played multiple characters who abhor or fully are repulsed by like violence, death, all of that stuff. And it's one of those things where when it comes up, I always try and remind everyone I'm fine. I play characters that have done all kinds of fucked up shit. I am fine. But when my character, say my beloved Road Theolus from Outrunners, sees a body, he's gonna get a little pale. He doesn't do dead bodies. He's a delicate flower. And I love him. So I did the work because part of Road's backstory, spoilers for Outrunners, which ended much earlier this year, I believe. Maybe it was last year. Oh God. Outrunners over on Happy Jacks, which is a Starscape game, I played a pacifist who became a pacifist because he did a murder. And he didn't like it. But part of his whole thing was like, whenever we were confronted with violence, he would run away. He would tuck tail. And I was always trying to be very clear, like, I'm fine. And I was playing with people who knew that I was not against playing characters who did violence. But then when he like really came to confront that part of the fiction, I went through and I had written a pretty extensive backstory, as I want to do. But then I was reading and listening to stories from people who experienced violence at a formative age, or isolation, which is also the case with Road. And like listened to their authentic stories, because like I've experienced a very minor version of some of these things, but not to the extent that he had. And so I wanted to lovingly hold the story that I was telling with him and say, it's okay to be harmed by people you care about, because it was his parent that had kind of put him in this situation. And to lovingly hold that story, I then had to make sure that I was listening not only to the fiction that I had created, but also like I wanted to hold some truth in it and say like, this is the harm of expectation, of pain, of all of these moments. And so I went and listened to stories of like parents who had too high of expectation on their kids and it caused them to crumble. Stories of people who had done violence that then had an adverse reaction to violence after. It's something that I kind of do often when I'm going to do something that I know is pretty pivotal. I'll go and find specialists, researchers, papers, podcasts, art, all of these things about that subject so that I am immersed in not only the reasoning behind it, but also the feelings of it. And one of the best ones for me is always the art of it. Going and finding art about the subject, especially from people who experienced it, because I find a lot of resonance with that. So like when I go to do a heavy scene with Zynon, I have a playlist of a very specific subject within his backstory that really grounds me in something that I personally have never experienced that is so central to him as a person. And I think about all of the research and all the stuff that I've read and seen to reinforce that story, so that I'm holding it in the heart of the scene. I am thinking about it when he is thinking about it, to have that resonance, but safely, because then I take it off because it's not my experience. Because Zynon, Esh, and I are different people, thankfully. Let's see here. Got more good stuff in chat. Indie Wanderer talking about having some safety struggles at the table. That's so hard. I'm sorry. Yes, Cody talking about surprise knife that will stab us later. I love a safety tool. It's like, hey, here's this thing that doesn't seem like it's in this story right now, but I, as the GM, I'm checking in with you about it now so that when it comes in 3 sessions, you're not completely surprised by it. I'm a big fan of that, honestly. Yeah, it can be really hard to be at a table where it feels like safety tools are a judgment, but I really encourage you to try and broach it with your friend of, hey, I care about you. And this is how, when I first started playing TTRPGs, I had very little framing of safety tools. And over time, I've just brought like so many of them that at this point, everyone's just used to me in my offline games of like, listen, this is a thing we're going to do now. Because it's about care. It's about the health of the story and the people you're playing with. And so it's very easy to say like, this is not me saying you've done anything wrong. We just didn't have this tool then, and it would make me feel a lot better about the story we're telling and help me tell the story if we all engaged in safety tools. And here's how to do it. And make it not a judgment call at all about the GM having not known about them or anything like that, but just as a like, this is for all of our goods, and it would make me feel a lot better. Because if they're your friend, hopefully they care about how you feel about playing a game with your friends. The heart of safety tools, and it's why I really wanted to like start with safety tools in this conversation. The heart of safety tools is not judgment. It's not, they're not used only to say like, hey, you hurt my feelings. They are meant to be like bumpers in bowling, you know? Because if you fall off the edge in bowling and fall into the gutter, no one hits a pin. But if you put bumpers up by using safety tools, chances are very good that you're going to hit a pin. Because the idea is if the pins are the story you're telling, and your ball falls into the gutter, you don't get to have a story anymore because it's not fun. Often those are the games that I think fall apart easily because people aren't enjoying it as much. They're not just full send in. And those bumpers allow you to stay within the confines of the story you all want to tell together. And then you don't have to go every single time like, hey, could we not do that next game? You can preempt doing something that upsets somebody. by having those conversations. And I always frame safety tools as like, hey, let's make this game more fun and safe for everybody. And then when people want to go hard, and tell stories about ghosts and death of loved ones and grief and all the things that are part of our shared human experience. It's one of the reasons I think they're such important stories to tell. Then you're all bought into it. It makes it so much easier to play games that are harder, that are more challenging. And there are games that sneak it in there. Like, I think that Dialect is a beautifully depressing game. I have never gotten to play it, but I've read so much about it, where it's like, you make a language together, and then it dies, and that's upsetting. But, like, 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, I played it on the stream, and 1,000-Year-Old Vampire is one that the only person you're really having a really in-depth lines and veils safety conversation with is yourself. But it's a good starting place, I think, where I have a pretty good handle on my lines and veils. And knowing mine helps me then facilitate the conversation of where does it lie with you? You know, where is the boundary for you? And then you can widen it a little bit to your friends that you play games with and go like, oh, okay, so I don't like stories that include, this is not a real one for me, but like stories that include clowns. I get it. I understand why people don't like clowns. I personally am like fine with them, but if someone that I play with is truly afraid of clowns, why would I put them in a game with someone I care about? I wouldn't. Same difference, unless they come to me and say, okay, I'm really afraid of clowns, but I really want to like challenge that in myself. Then you can safely engage with adding clowns to the story. Oh yeah, Erica, you're so right about that. Listen, journaling games are fun when they're fun. Okay, so when we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit more about prepping and like keeping tabs on safety for yourself when you are portraying a moment of more difficult subject matter. And then at the end, we're going to talk a lot about safe ways to then decompress and care for yourself after doing so. But first, I got one more thing in chat. I got two more things in chat. Cody has a great tip that you keep your lines and veils in your phone or somewhere on hand that you can easily access and whip it out for different games. I love that. Mine does slightly vary depending on the setting, my lines and veils, because there are things that I am much more comfortable doing with people I'm going to play with for longer than like one sitting. A lot of my like, this is a one-shot lines and veils are a lot more strict of like, we don't need to go too in-depth onto most things because we're here to play a game for 4 hours. Unless it is, again, a game about a sensitive subject matter, chances are going to be like, let's just not do anything super heavy because we're here for 4 hours. But if it's a game that I'm going to be playing for like weeks, months, or years, then I'm going to, scale it to the subject and the place and the setting and all of that stuff. So, and yes, on who is playing as well. That is completely correct. So, I have a tarot card pull. Lamia. Exciting. Clear my table off a little bit. All the chaos that's over there right now. Here we are. Got my deck. I'm going to shuffle it while we talk. Yes, see, welcome to why this came up. I was just like, listen, I just did all this work. Let's talk about it. If you have not seen the Chaos Protocol Arc 4 Episode 7, know that that is what inspired this conversation. And know that everything I'm talking about today, to some degree, I did. Okay, Lamia. We are shuffling. We're gonna see what kind of spicy cards my deck gives us today. It's been on one lately. Here we go. We're gonna cut it. We have the Ace of Cups. Ugh, I love the Suit of Cups. The Ace of Cups, love's beginnings. Aces mark the beginning of exciting new phases. Since the Suit of Cups deals specifically with love and emotion, you're in for a real treat. Expect to enter a blissful time of health, joy, and friendship. A new love could be on the horizon. You may feel that you're making a whole new start. Just go with it and allow this feeling to revitalize your spirit. Yeah! Ugh. I love this card. I love the Suit of Cups. I hope that this is a sign of nothing but wonderful good things coming to you, Lamia. This is a card of emotional fulfillment from new, which I think is great. I love new stuff. Yeah, and this is a perfect time to remind you that if you want to hear me talk a lot about tarot, or at least read cards in a new and interesting way, you can go and listen to Lori's House from Tender Vicious Studios, which is a tarot-based system called The Home We Remember that we wrote, which you can also buy and play yourself. And use the tools that we're talking about today, because it is a game about building community and really wrecking something within your community that you care about. So with that, we're going to go on a quick 10-minute break, get up, stretch, pet your pets, get a snack, and I'll see you all in about 10 minutes. Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome back. I saw that there was a Show Us Your Cat and somebody was getting cuddles, so I brought him in here for a second. And now he's like, the camera is perceiving me. I must leave. Go on, Circus Cat. There he goes. Thank you, Watson. Oh, hello. You want something in exchange for your presence? Fine. I got other stuff I gotta do, bud. But if you want a treat, you may have. Bribable. Will you go up? Will you go up? Will you go up? I know you can. Will you go up? No, that's not what I'm telling you to do. Come on. Thank you. Okay, one more. You ready? Can you shake? Thank you. Very important. Anyways, so there's a Show Us Your Cat. All done. All done. All done. He loves this. He's been purring pretty much this whole time. This is also another part of what we're going to talk about later. Part of the reason I tell you to pet your pets is because that's what I do when I go on break on shows. I go pet my cats. This man. This man, everybody. Are you done? Are you finished? Okay. Thank you. There's no more treats. We're done. We're done with treats. I'm not giving you more right now. I give him so many treats. He does not need more right now. Okay, so welcome back to this episode of Seems Right. I have Show Us Your Dice that I owe you all. And to continue my dice set that I've been slowly showing you all, I have another Zynon die to show you. Watson, this is not a treat. This is a dice. Why are you licking it? It's not food. He's trying to eat this die, everybody. Come here. Anyways, I promise I'm a serious actual play performer and Twitch streamer. I just also have this. Okay. So besides Watson, so I have a set of D20s that I bought because Forces of Extinction is a D20 system. And last couple of times I've shown you the one that I got for Azalis, Zainad's partner, that we've known about for a while. I've shown you Pira, his partner that you learned about, I think, for the first time in the backstory episode. And now I have another one, of course, because there are 3 of them. So this one is Dom. Little 2-sided one. There you go. Goodbye, Watson. Oh my god, Watson. Come on, man. And so then here's the 3 of them together. Watson, they're dice. You're trying to show the dice. You can kind of see how they all kind of complement each other, which is one of the things I liked about them. You're being a menace. They're dice. Okay. Anyways, here's the 3 of them together. This one's Azalis, this one's Pira, and this one's Dom. See, he's super intent on knowing what I'm holding. They really do look like those cotton candy dum-dums. It's such a remarkable color. Yeah, so that's those. There is one more from that set that I'll show you another time. But I will leave it on this doof for a minute. Look at this. Look at his fur. Look at this fur. What is this? Okay. He's always like this. So, where's the right button? This one. There we go. So, back to it. Today's Seems Right, we're talking about telling difficult stories. So the first half, we talked a lot about table safety and cultivating a culture of open communication about heavy subject matter. Everything from how to talk about having table secrets to being upfront about, not only for safety reasons, the subject matter of your story, but also so that everyone has buy-in and can engage in it meaningfully. Now, the next part I want to talk about is you engaging with it meaningfully. I talked about it a little bit, but if you go back and watch the Seems Right I did about character work, you can see like a lot of what I think are some of the things that make the best performances comes from thinking holistically about your character, thinking about them and kind of puzzling them around from every angle. We're gonna get there. We're doing decomp and bleed at the end of this. That is like the last big thing, because that's one that I take a lot of specific, like, precious time with. So the personal work outside of, you know, doing research on the subject matter, especially if it's if it is something that is outside of your lived experience, like I hope that you are not a soldier who has survived a terrible war, or someone who has experienced like some I'm thinking of like my Candela Obscura character over on Bad House right now, has experienced like really graphic violence around him, and so like doing the research to authentically engage in that, as he is the hero of a story in a piece of fiction, and holding his complications with care, and I try and do this with, you know, all of my characters, but especially Paxton has some stuff that I was like, I'm gonna go and do some reading, and it's not to say you have to do a bunch of homework to play every TTRPG character that you play, but it's more like, if you're gonna delve into heavy subjects, like he lost his whole family in one night. And so I always want to hold with care like people who have survived those kinds of events and like listen to their stories, because I'm not doing it for shock value. I never want to portray something that is difficult, complicated, or personal for shock value. I want to explore it because it is a story that touches other things that I'm interested in, or is a driver towards something within the fiction that I think is compelling. And so do your research and find stories and art and things that resonate with you about it. But also then when you're going to actually play in those sessions, outside of the check-ins, all the stuff that we've already talked about, one of the things I always try and do is center myself in the story. Because you've done all the other stuff and you can kind of keep some of that, but this is not to say you should go and clinically approach portraying these moments, because the reason why you're interested in playing them at their heart is being in the fiction, is being in the story. And so you've done your research, you've talked about safety, you've done all these other things. So then when you get there, holding the fiction of the character, their truth, what drove them to this moment, why they would do it, the who, what, where, when, why of what is motivating this moment of difficult storytelling, whether that is a character death, a big reveal, or doing something terrible in the case of some recent events on shows that I'm on. Like, root yourself in the why of it and know from a storyteller perspective what you want to say about it, so that you have your character's reasoning and what you really want to say, and hold those as the most important thing in the moment. So the way that you engage in the actual moment, one of the most important things is to be present, not only in the fiction, but with yourself. Because if something is too heavy as you're experiencing it, you always have permission to kind of step back, either through safety tools and, something like the stoplight system, which if you're not familiar, you use colors, and you say, like, I'm good, and you'll see me flash this card somewhat regularly, especially in difficult scenes, because I might be crying, but I always say I cry for fun. I love telling stories that make me cry. So there's this is like, hey, I need a minute, or let's kind of pause for a second. I just need to check in on something. Or you can do the LARP hand on the head. And then there's the full red, which is a stop, and like, let's stop the fiction, talk about it, and then come back to the story. And the TTRPG safety toolkit that was linked earlier does have resources for the stoplight system. And there are variations, because I am aware that stoplight system doesn't work for everybody, because people are colorblind, especially red and green colorblind. So that makes it real tricky. So there are alternatives with playing cards. I would say you can always just type or say the words as well, because they are still understood to mean those things. So the be in touch with yourself, because you don't want to hurt yourself to tell a story. I don't care if it's for a huge audience or for just your group of friends. You don't want to harm yourself to tell a story. You want to bring authenticity to a moment, have that moment of storytelling and narrative catharsis, or of complication, and feel like you have brought everything you could to it, and then be able to step away from it going, I still feel good about it. So for me, like, I'm spoiled. I know C was in chat earlier. I get to talk to our incredible dramaturg on the Chaos Protocol when I'm going to do something difficult and say, like, hey, how are we feeling about this? What's the vibe? We talk about it as a cast as well. We'll engage in it that way and be like, hey, how are we doing about this particular subject? And through having ongoing conversations, I always feel pretty certain when I'm going to tackle something. And so when I then do it, I am looking at where I know our established safety tools are. I'm in tune with myself, and I'm mostly living in the fiction and going, okay, this is why we're doing this. This is the heart of it. And sometimes There's amazing moments like the finale of Arc 1 of the Chaos Protocol, where I'm not going to get into plot details, but we had a moment of extremely heavy fiction. And we consciously took the moment to step outside of viscerally experiencing it to just talk about it and narrate it, without getting into the visceral details. So like, I know somebody who has fully a kind of veil around specifically children experiencing grief over the death of their parents. And I kind of think about it that way often, not just for the Chaos Protocol, but for other things, is that it's okay to kind of take a step back and just narrate. If it is not something that you want to fully embody and perform, there's no problem with that, especially if you're doing it just for fun. But even if you're doing it as a performer, again, you should never harm yourself to tell a story. So if you get to that moment and you go, I can jump all the way into yelling and screaming or crying or whatever, you can make the conscious choice, either for your safety, for the safety of your table, for the safety of your audience, for whatever reason, to come to that moment and then step out of your character and say, and this is what happens next. And this is what I do next. And so then there's always the fallback of, with no judgment on that being the fallback, for the record. There's always the fallback of, you don't have to embody it if it's going to be a problem for you in any way. You can always just tell the story, because that's the point. The point is to tell the story. Embodying it for me is fun. It's exciting. It's the kind of performer that I like being. But I have definitely gotten into moments where I'm like, and now I'm going to narrate this, either for me, for my table mates, for the safety of, the table, the story, etc., or because it's the right choice, because embodying it might be too much or too scary or whatever. Or maybe I don't feel well. I've also had moments where I just don't feel well, and I'm like, you know what? If I start crying right now, I will be miserable in a couple of hours. And so I heavily encourage you to remember that you can always step out of the fiction and tell the story without embodying it. And if you want a really, I think, a compelling and thoughtful example of that, you should go check out the finale of Arc 1 of the Chaos Protocol. So there's that. There is safety tools, because you can also red or yellow card yourself. You can. If you're like, actually, I don't like the words that I just said, I'm going to rephrase that. I'm going to reframe it. I would actually like to retcon the last, couple of sentences, couple of minutes, whatever. You are also a part of the table safety, and in the moment, if you feel like you misspoke, or you didn't like how it felt, or maybe you did start to embody it, and then you're like, I actually have to stop, that's okay. You can safety tool yourself. You can X card yourself. And I encourage you to do so. The heart of it should always be, I'm telling a story, and I am engaging with it in a way that is fun for me and everyone I am telling the story with. And it does, I'm seeing a little bit of talking about mitigating bleed. You'll notice I, a long time ago, got in this habit of specifically talking about my characters in third person limited. Very often, as an example, I will say I, me about Kai, and then I will say my character's name, and then start to narrate something. I will say oh, Kay does this and this, or Zynon does this and this, or when you look at Zynon, when you look at, Kay, Paxton, etc., because I am not those characters, and I very hardly guard that for myself in the way that I narrate, as a safety tool, as a means of keeping distance from characters that say and do things that I know are separate from myself. And some of that is a very strong keeper of bleed. It is a barrier that I set up to ensure that I am never going, I did something terrible, I said something cruel, I did this thing. I did not. My characters did these things. And this is not this is what my character would do. This is just a way to personally separate for myself as the player, and the stuff within the fiction. And it when I started doing it, I don't quite remember when, but it was a while ago. And it made it so that I kind of don't experience the like personal guilt and obligation towards the actions of my characters, especially as I've gotten into playing characters who have done more and more like fucked up shit. I say that even though my very first actual play character, I think, kind of killed all of humanity. But the layers of it has always got to be like, I am not my characters. I love them. I hold their stories deep and personally, and I enjoy embodying them and speaking their words and seeing their mind and being their heart, but I am not them. And that is, to me, just linguistically a way of holding the barrier, because the next thing we're going to talk about is bleed, and I'm going to talk quite a bit about it because it'll be the rest of the show. So yeah, the moment happens, and you have your safety tools, you've had the conversations, the moment happens. You like it or you don't, that is in the moment. And again, you can always go like, hey, actually, that pivotal moment, I didn't like this thing about it. I didn't like this X thing about it. I'd like to retcon it. I think that you should always be able to retcon and change things. So the moment has happened. And then the session ends, and the best things you can do for yourself is have a good table plan for how to decompress. Because like having just experienced this on Saturday with Transplaner, like I had a lot of adrenaline coming into the session. I had a lot of adrenaline coming out of the session. I was not worried about my castmates, about how they would feel about what had happened in the story. I was just adrenalined. And like awash with a lot of like, oh, I sure did a thing. And I have this experience often, but I specifically was setting up something and was feeling very nervous about it because it was hard. But I had done all the other stuff that we had talked about earlier. And so I went, okay, we're all fine. Let's have a conversation to make sure we're all good. I have the great benefit for Transplaner if we always have a decompressing time in which we also hear from our incredible dramaturg, and we talk about like if we met our goals in the episode, we have a chance to kind of like have those conversations before getting in. So the artist in me is fed in knowing like I'm good, we did it. So then by the time we get to Stars and Wishes, one of my favorite forms of decompression, I am certain that I achieved my artistic goal. I feel like I said and did the things that I set out to do in my performance. And even if I don't have a dramaturg, I very often will be like, here was my list of goals. Like I had this happen with Candela Obscura recently as well, where I was like, oh God, that was a huge thing. That scene was a lot. I met my goals. I did it in a way that I think was very satisfying. And then Stars and Wishes helps me kind of center that around like, and it was good. It was good for everybody. And so we start with so bleed. For those of you unaware, bleed is the emotional, like, internalizing of, like, hyper-identifying with your character, their actions, and the world that they live in. So, and then your body, your emotions, your self is affected by things that your story has had happen in it. And that can result in some really bad things. Like I've seen bleed do some pretty big harm. I've seen bleed also affect people's relationships. I've seen bleed affect a lot of things. So like bleed happens. The bleed is not like, I'm not here to say bleed is bad. If it has ever happened to you, you're a bad performer. That's not what I'm here to say. I'm here to say bleed probably happens. You can do a lot to mitigate it. I was talking about narrating in the third person. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how I continue to mitigate bleed after as well. But then the other thing is to, anytime you can kind of bring your head above water, and water in this case being the like heavy story that you've just told, to be present at the table with your friends, your fellow storytellers, the people you're playing the game with, and exist outside of the fiction, is so important. So like if you have a really heavy session, I don't care if you aren't in the habit of doing Stars and Wishes at the end of your home game. If you have a really heavy session, I always am like, are we good? We can hang out for a while. We can just sit and talk. I just want to make sure everyone is, feeling good, that you're not like, for me, my home game ends pretty late at night. So it's one of those like, are we all good? I'm happy to hang out, or you can like go to bed, but I don't want you going to bed feeling icky from what we just did. Cause like, boy, sometimes that shit gets heavy. And so, being there with your table mates and talking through and checking in, again, having that open line of communication to say like, hey, that moment, how was that? And not looking for like uplifting, like, oh, it was so good, but just like, we did it. I felt safe. That kind of stuff is always really good and important, so that you're not going away and going, oh God, I hurt my friends, when they're fine, or they should have said something and didn't, or they want to say something later. You're not left wondering. You're left going, we did it. And, if next couple of days, if that changes, fine. Because again, that's how consent works. And sometimes people feel things later. But know that in the moment you did everything you could to mitigate harm in telling a very heavy story. So check-ins about the thing, but then also doing stars and wishes, doing something fun to tell other people you enjoyed the story they told. So if you don't know what stars and wishes are, or roses and thorns, or the thousands of other ways that people use the same phrase, is also in the TTRPG safety toolkit, but it is the act of going around the table and saying something about each other person at the table, something that you enjoyed about them being within the story that day, whether that is as a performer, as a storyteller. I even try and do it for people who weren't in the story. Like if I have a tech producer on a show, I'm always like, thank you for tech producing, for modding, for doing whatever you were doing in the background. That's a lot of work, and I really appreciate you being here, because everyone being involved in the story is so important. And Stars and Wishes is a way to like not just acknowledge people for the story that they brought or the work that they brought, but also as a way of being present with each other. It is a grounding exercise as well, in which you can step out of the fiction and go, yeah, I really liked the weird monster voice you made, or I really enjoyed that sweet scene that you had with this other character. And I, as a person from the theater world, I always try and dive into something craft-wise that I really like about someone's performance, and like going into the meat of like the beautiful art of telling stories. And whether that's like, hey, that use of an ability in that combat was super cool, great job with that, it was really smart of you, or anything like that. I think Stars and Wishes are an incredible grounding tool, and then it gets pointed at you, and you better take the compliment. I say this as a threat because I know a lot of people who can't take compliments. I still do Stars and Wishes with some of these people regularly, and I tell them, you'll take the compliment. Because it is important to also know that people appreciate you being there. So if you've done something really scary, participated in a heavy scene, sharing something out of care for what someone else at the table did is so important. So saying like, hey, maybe you participated in a scene with someone with a big heavy reveal or a big heavy story to tell, then you can say like, hey, that really resonated with me. Thank you for telling it that way, or thank you for involving me in this very personal scene, or it meant a lot to be a part of this story, and I look forward to what it's going to look like in the future. And so you can have that conversation as players. Outside of your characters, outside of Bleed, you can just say like, I really enjoyed that. I liked the thing you did, and I'm really grateful I got to be there for it. And then Wishes is like looking to the future. Again, it's something you cannot do when your head is inside of the fiction. But outside of the fiction, you can go like, hey, GM, I liked that NPC. I want to meet them again. Or, I have this moment that I want to take aside with this other character. Can we facilitate that happening in the near future? I love that kind of stuff. So Stars and Wishes, I'm a big fan of. And then a core part of it as well is you have to say something nice about yourself. A little sparkle in there goes a long way, because again, I play with people who are really bad at taking compliments, and they're even worse at saying nice things about themselves. You should always be able to find something that you are proud of, pleased about, or happy with within what you did within a story. So after especially a heavy session, but after pretty much every session, I love a Stars and Wishes session. And sometimes they take a while, and sometimes people don't have time, and that's the world that we live in. But especially if you're going to do something really heavy, I really encourage you to take the time to do Stars and Wishes. And then be there for each other. and be present with each other, so that if someone has done something where they were sobbing partway through the session or whatever, you can be like, hey, do we want to just like hang out? You want to like, I don't know, co-work or co-decompress, and like be there for people if you've got the time and the energy to do so. I think it's really important to like care for each other in those moments of really heavy storytelling, but then also be in touch with yourself, because the last thing, especially if you are the person who did something really heavy or participated in something really heavy, is you also have to decompress yourself. You have to de-roll all the way. So there are some sessions of games where I'm like, I know I'm ordering myself dinner tonight because I've got comfort food that I know will make me feel better, and then I don't have to get off of a call and go make food. I'll have my favorite food waiting for me, or one of my favorite comfort foods waiting for me, and I don't have to worry about it. Another thing for me, and part of the reason I love costuming and makeup for storytelling, especially in TTRPGs, is I then take my character off. So it is so important to be able to, again, sever big sources of bleed. And the reason I love makeup and costumes is it makes me feel more like my character, right? To be able to step into their skin, into their clothes more. But then the other upside is I can then take those off. And so I will make sure that I'm going to be able to take the time to take their costume off and take the makeup off. And very often I'll shower and just like really wash it all off. Because it's not that I don't love them, but now it's time to step away from whatever, heavy thing you just did and be in your own skin, take a deep breath and step away so that you can resonate with the good parts of the storytelling instead of being accosted by bleed. So I will eat, decompress that way. One of my favorite things in the whole world is that my cats are excellent decompression buddies. I mean, like, if you've watched me ever do a heavy scene in an actual play, notably with the exception of this last Saturday on Transplanter, Watson will come and invade my personal space. He's like, you're sad and I don't like it. And so if I'm crying, there's a like 80 to 90% chance that Watson is sitting right here trying to comfort me, because in real life, if I am sad, he is like on my face. And so having a partner, a parent, a friend, a pet to ground you and just like decompress in person with is so good. And like, I'm very lucky in that Watson is usually like, I can touch his tail right now. He's right here. And so if I ever need to just like ground myself, I can just reach over, grab my cat's tail. He doesn't care. He's like, why are you touching me? Okay. Or he'll come and comfort me. And that's a really big part of it too. Or like, even if you just have a plushie, like a comfort plushie, or like, I love a weighted blanket. Oh, I have a weighted body pad. But genuinely self-care at the end of something like this is so important, because it isn't just about doing it once. It's about what you're going to do the next time you do a heavy scene, and caring for yourself so that you're not A, afraid of them, and B, you're not hurting yourself doing them, which is why you become afraid of them. But it has to be sustainable. They say the same thing about like vocal work. If you're going to do a like really harsh voice that might jack up your throat over time, they tell you to like take breaks from it, or find a way to lessen the strain of a voice that maybe you have to do often. So like if I were playing Zynon but he sounded like this all the time, that might not be a good thing, because it's not great for my throat to do that for sustained periods of time. And so like if this were a vocal coaching thing, they'd say like, do some warm warm mist, make sure to warm up your voice correctly and all that stuff. All this stuff the same applies for doing big heavy scenes, big dramatic moments, is to do all the care before, but then also do all the care after, and like make sure you're letting yourself kind of de-roll from the whole situation by eating. Always eat, drink water. I'm gonna drink some water right now. Because even if it's not crying, doing something grounding here in your own body. I think I've talked about this before. I'm always grateful to have like a fidget or a dice or something to like touch, to remind me, hey, I'm not my character. And it helps ground your body back into the real world, to step away from bleed. And water is another really good one. Because then you are like doing something separate to care for yourself. Yeah, and I'd love to see if anyone else has any other like decompressing, de-rolling, anti-bleed stuff that they do. There's a lot of really good ones. I also like seeing people do like mindfulness kind of meditation. I prefer to do that as a warm-up. As far as like a wind down, I'm more like I'm just gonna sit here and like watch a mindless YouTube video, or sometimes I play video games and just kind of like center myself in doing something, because I have real intense ADHD and sometimes I just need to do something, and doing things helps me kind of set my brain back to where I want it to be. So like after Saturday I played Fallout for like a couple hours and just like hung out with my cats and Lena, and just did stuff. Cody likes to lay flat on the floor for several minutes. Yeah, floor time. Listen, nothing is better than ground time for grounding techniques. I love some floor time. I highly recommend floor time. Floor time for me inevitably ends up being cat time, because my cats want to know why I'm laying on the floor. Yeah, big fan of floor time. I've done stuff where like part of my grounding technique is in a third person removed way, telling the story of what I've done, especially if it's someone who like maybe wasn't in the session, doesn't watch the show that it was for, etc., etc. Just like being excited and proud of myself instead of being like, and then everything went wrong. Oh, Erica's dog Bella thinks that she pays rent by laying on their chest on the floor. That's so cute. Yeah, I love pets for grounding. I love a shower. I love a walk. Done some of that too, where I'll have done something really heavy. I remember a while ago now, when it was coming up to the end of Unsung Tales with Erland, I went to the beach, which for that character like is very centering because he's an ocean guy. I went to the beach and I touched beach, and it was really grounding, not only in the character but for myself, to like recenter, because it's something that would have also grounded him. I really enjoyed that. I've gone and touched dirt, just like gone and done some gardening, gone somewhere where there's nature. I don't remember if it was the finale of Arc 1 of the Chaos Protocol or what it was, but I've definitely like planned to like go outdoors after really heavy moments, just to like fully touch grass. Oh, I love Park Break. That's great. God, I've done Park Break before with a table. I am a fan of it, honestly. Outside time is good for you, especially in TTRPGs. Yeah. So that's the core of it, is safety. Authenticity is also important. Centering yourself in the story that you really want to tell is important. Safely engaging with it, though, is the most important. It makes it better storytelling if you feel safe to tell it, because if you're not feeling safe to tell it, you're going, and then this thing happens, and that's all, thanks. But you can also just have buy-in from everybody and full-chestedly send doing some stuff, doing whatever that was on Saturday on the Chaos Protocol. I laugh. It was very heavy. I'm very proud of it, but yeah, the heart of it should always be safety, and everything else, the story, the characters, comes after, because you got to care for the people you're telling the story with for the story to matter. And especially for things like finales, I say looking at Road to Nowhere ending tomorrow, like, really care for yourself. Set expectations for yourself. If you're the GM, set expectations for yourself and the table. And really, like, try and engage in heavy things with care. First for the people at your table, second for the story. Well, no, first for yourself, second for the table, third for the story. There we go. And make sure you have a plan to eat, to pet your pets, to eat a snack, to drink some water, and carefully and kindly decompress. And then over time, check in with yourself. Make sure that you are still feeling good. If you're not, again, go back to those grounding tools. Check in with your table. Talk to them if you are experiencing bad bleed. Talk to your GM if something about the facilitation can help you in the future. Talk to each other, because it makes it so you can talk about important and heavy subjects that, while there are some that, like, I just think are not fun to play with at a table, someone might find it fruitful to explore it for themselves. I'm so in favor of telling complicated stories that resonate with people, and sometimes it involves touching subjects that are hard. So do so with the utmost care, and go tell some fucked up, dark, beautiful, grief-stricken stories of love. And yeah, that's what I got for y'all. If you got any questions, we've got a couple minutes left. I'm going to start looking at my calendar and figuring out who I am. But thank you for letting me just gab forever about telling difficult stories. It is actually my favorite thing in the whole wide world. Yeah. Let's see here. Who am I? I'm Kai, and I like crying on twitch.tv. Where's my calendar? So the rest of the week, I believe, double check something really quick. I believe we're back tomorrow with more, yes, of the Fourth Age over on Wounded Warrior Project. This is the second half of our final book in that show. Speaking of Ireland, my beloved, in which we are exploring Middle Earth after the Lord of the Rings, after the War of the Ring, and darkness is not fully gone, and we are rallying the peoples of Middle Earth to defend against it. I have had just the greatest time bringing back my beloved Ireland of Mythland, who started on Happy Jack's RPG in the Unsung Tales shortly after the events of The Hobbit, and has now been brought forward into the Fourth Age. It is also a game for charity for Wounded Warrior Project, which is an organization that specifically cares for veterans who, helps them reintegrate into society and care for them and their families, especially those who are wounded, who are carrying injuries from their life of service. And then in the evening, it will be the finale, holy shit, of Road to Nowhere over on Happy Jack's RPG. It is our Electric State actual play. It is coming to a very climactic ending after we did a terrorism in Los Angeles and journeyed all the way up California. We are now finally about to leave the new country of Pacifica, which is basically just California. And Justice in chat, Cody and I are in that game playing two really messy gay people. and our incredible rest of our table. It's been such an amazing journey, and I'm super terrified about how this is going to end. So you can tune in tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern for the finale of Road to Nowhere over on Happy Jacks RPG. And then on Wednesday, I will be back with more Power Wash Simulator 2, because I deserve nice things, and Power Wash Simulator is one of them. So we're going to hang out. We're going to power wash some stuff. And it's going to be a nice time. Yeah. And then, because so many people are going to PAX Unplugged, all of the rest of my shows are offline for the rest of the week. And I have a big deadline, so I'm probably not going to add any more streams in that dead space, because I have weird offline job things going on. But you can always go and catch up on Lori's House over on Tender Vicious Studios. I know that the 8th episode is in development and is coming soon, so you could check that out. It is wherever you get your podcasts. And then you can catch up on Transplanter RPGs, The Chaos Protocol. We have done episode 7 of The Chaos Protocol's 4th arc last Saturday. But usually we do 2 episodes per streaming session. But we only did 1 because the other one is going to air the weekend after Thanksgiving. And then we're going to go back to doing 2 and 2 and 2. So you can check that out. Not this coming Saturday, but the following. But this Saturday, if you happen to be at PAX Unplugged, you can go and say hi and maybe even play some games with the singular Connie Chung and C. Thomas. They're going to be all over PAX Unplugged, running games, and then they're also doing a special event offsite with free food and a cool original game all about labor organizing and I don't remember the whole pitch of it. It's very good though. It sounds like a really good time, and it's from our sponsors for Arc for the Chaos Protocol, the Working Families Party. Very excited to see how that goes. So you can go to that event as well. You can go over to their socials or over to, I think it's on the official Transplanter socials as well, to go and see what they're up to. I highly recommend going and saying hi to them. It's going to be a good time. And also a bunch of my other friends are going to be all over PAX Unplugged. So you should go and check out the Fury Road Oops All Himbos show with my friend CB. There's going to be Ed Spence, the singular, the one, the only, is running a Fallout game from Odysseus using their new Fallout New Vegas expansion. There's going to be such amazing stuff going on at PAX Unplugged. So go and say hi to all of my friends that are there. I wish I was going to be in Philly, but I don't fly right now. And I will see all of you back here next week on Monday for more Seems Right. For maybe a lighter and funnier subject. But I love these theory crafting conversations with you all, and thank you for sharing such amazing stories. You're very earnest, and sometimes I'm just kind of hoping for better for some of you stories about table safety, and know that I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for table safety everywhere, as my buddy Dave over in Happy Jacks RPG likes to say. If you're not using safety tools, that's kind of an asshole thing to do. Use safety tools. And with that, I've got 2 minutes. What do I have for 2 minutes? I have stuff. I had something that I kept on being like, oh, I should show that to people on stream, and then I keep on not doing it. I don't remember what it is now. I don't remember. Oh no. Well, this has been super fun. A cat! Thank you, Indie Wanderer. I genuinely cannot recall what it is I was going to show you all, and it's going to come to me like in 2 hours. Instead, for now, thanks to Indie Wanderer, you all get this incredible and singular picture of my son. This one's Rigby. Look at him. He's a baby. Also, Erica, go to bed. Look at my sweet son. You can see his little chest puff. He's got white fur in the middle of his chest. He's so cute. That's a little guy. Oh yeah, he's nothing there. You can also see that he eats himself bald on his chin because he likes food so much. Oop, I was unmuted. I was muted. Anyways, he's very cute. That's my good boy. Thank you all so much for hanging out. And with that, I have had such a good time talking about this. Thank you for hanging out, and I'll see you all tomorrow over on Wounded Warrior Project, over on Happy Jacks, and then back here. So until then, have a great rest of your day. I'll see you all very soon. Bye.